So just focusing on the tariffs on steel and aluminum, how has that impacted your business?
Well, generally we make in the market what we sell. So therefore in the United States, the tools we make are made out of U.S. steel. Now U.S. steel has risen over the last year, perhaps in maybe 30% last year and 9% this year, may be associated with that anticipation of tariffs or trade action. But we've been able to manage around that, I think.
So what does manage around that mean? Is it passing on to the end
passing on
user?
Prices, finding productivity, better design cost reduction, using less steel. I mean, manufacturers do this all the time. Currencies change. RMB changed 9% last year. You know, the euro changed 14%. So prices change all the time.
We hear so much about trade these days, whether it's China or whether it's NAFTA, in so many different directions. As a CEO, as you're planning, things like capital investment that Mike was just talking about, does it affect your planning?
Sure, it can affect planning in terms of our particular company is kind of insulated from this. But if I talk to my colleagues in the National Association of Manufacturers, they might consider that. But their optimism index was 93.5%, the second highest ever. And so I think one of the questions you have to ask, I heard somebody on your show once, or somebody on Bloomberg say, it's a great atmosphere, but it's getting risky. Well, I say risky versus what? 2 years ago, we have better tax rates now if you're a manufacturer, so the cash flow is better. So the capital budgeting process favoring the United States or investment is more positive.
So do you share that optimism? I know you don't like to give guidance, so I'm not asking for guidance, but I do want to know, is Nick Pinchuk, is he optimistic about the rest of the year for his company?
I am. I mean, we have a great markets. We have great markets. Our principal market is vehicle repair. And vehicle repair just keeps going. Cars keep getting older in the United States. They've gotten older every year since 1980. They keep changing. And the electrification of cars plays into our hands because we have the best database and the best diagnostics associated with that. So when cars change, mechanics need new ways to handle them and to repair them, and we have the best. And then, you know, finally, you have the Snap-on brand, which is non-Perel. Mechanics or any working man or woman will display the Snap-on brand as the outward sign of their pride and dignity they take in their work. And one of the things is we're kind of a tweener in that way, and people don't fully understand our company.
How much pricing power do you have?
Well, if it's visible inflation, we can price for inflation. That's simply clear, because the Snap-on product has always been above everyone else. People pay premiums to have Snap-on tools because they are more functional. They'll get the job done faster. We have bigger databases in terms of electronics, and when they display them, they show that you know, you're doing something important, perhaps as important as a surgeon.
So we talked about the impact of steel and aluminum tariffs.
Yes.
What are your other input costs that are rising?
You know, well, you've got freight that rises from time to time and so on, that kind of thing, because we ship things all over the place. So generally, those are the three things. Labor can rise, too. I think as manufacturing expands, labor will rise. But we think, again, we can manage that. That's what managers do. They find productivity in those opportunities. I see the current situation, as does the National Association of Manufacturers, as opportunity. The president sees that there's opportunity to renegotiate the trade deals, and we have an administration that's looking at the American worker when he's renegotiating them, and therefore that's an opportunity.
Have your wages gone up in the last year? And,
sure.
And a related question is, are you having difficulty finding skilled people who can fill the jobs at whatever price?
They go up every year. I'm proud to say, we've given pretty good salary increases every year for 10 years, you know, after the recession, let's say. And so our people are, I think, seeing those kinds of increases. And we do find more difficulty finding skilled workers as the manufacturing sector expands. That's what the tax law was all about. It wasn't about erasing the individual compensation for workers already in place. It was about expanding the manufacturing sector, adding good paying jobs, so raising the average, and then having more demand where the average would go up, helping the American worker.
So how do you manage that? Do you wind up hiring less qualified workers and paying them less, or do you wind up price competing and getting workers?
Actually, somebody like Snap-on can train their own. So we have to put more money into training, but really the problem is associated with small businesses who can't afford to train their own. That's why I think the most important thing, if you think about this, if you step back and you say, what's happening here today? If you thought that the American worker was the most important resource we had, you would say first, you'd unburden the companies with their asymmetric tax laws. You'd get better trade deals. You'd work on infrastructure to amplify them, and then you'd try to upskill them. So we say that as the manufacturing sector expands, as the 300 million Americans, makers and fixers, can contribute to the economy, the most important thing we can do is upskill them, prosperity follows.
So the view from your C-suite right now looks pretty rosy, but I've never met a CEO that isn't concerned about something. So what are you concerned about going forward for your company?
Taking advantage of this. I mean, the point is we see abundant opportunities moving outwards, and it's not so easy to take advantage of. I think from our company, we see that we have opportunities, so many opportunities, both for growth and improving our company.
Well, so what are the bottlenecks between you and taking full advantage of those opportunities? What could keep you back from that?
Well, I think our core thing is, you'd have to know more about our principal value creating mechanism at Snap-on is understanding the work. We observe the work, we figure out what tool will release that work and take critical tasks and make them easier. And so that observation, that understanding of the work, we're expanding out of auto repair. We can take care of that, but in terms of oil and gas and aviation and mining and those kinds of things, we're building that knowledge. That's the bottleneck, but we're doing it.